Are you good? Are you comfortable? Are you cozy?
I'm good. The dogs, the door's open so that they won't whine. So they'll just be sitting here with me pretty chill right now. So that's always a good sign. Um, yeah, it's just a crazy, crazy day so far. I guess it speaks to kind of what we're about to talk about. So
Yeah, I know, right? Well, that's good. I'm glad the hopefully the dogs can make a cameo. Just so you know, for the people on the video podcast, right there, if you see this, Carl is always in the cameo, right? I got Mal this little picture of him in an admiral costume with his head photoshopped on top.
uh, I
So
love that. Yes.
so we're
There
all
are
about the
lots
pet.
of
We're all about the pets around here.
Yes, lots of pictures of Gus and Tuck everywhere. Our screensavers everywhere in the house, and their hair is everywhere to make up for any place that their picture is not. So
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Sue, thank you for being here.
yeah,
It's good to chat with you again. It's been quite some time. I've had Sue on the podcast probably about over a year ago, I would say.
yeah, I
But then
believe
now I
so.
know that there's quite a bit that has changed since then. But overall, how are you doing today? Besides busy.
Doing good. A lot of good things that I'm busy with. So it makes me very, very excited. And it's all things, well, most things. Of course, there's some just admin type things that aren't always the most fun, but a lot of things that I'm extremely excited about and just all headed in the right direction. And I can't even believe that like some of these things are happening to me or to our company. So it's a very good, crazy, even though it is extremely crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like that's that's good signs, right? At least
Yes.
as long as it's kind of like somewhat controlled crazy,
Yeah.
right? Um
Organized chaos.
yes, no, exactly. That's a controlled chaos. I like it. Okay, so just real quick before we dive into things, just for people who maybe don't know who you are, the way that I usually like to do this is just like whenever you meet somebody new, whether you're at a restaurant, at a bar, or whatever, at the grocery store, at the dog playground, whenever you introduce yourself and they ask like what you do, what is your response?
I normally just say that I own my own business just to keep it easy, or say that I'm in the fitness business. But what I would say to make sure that my dog doesn't pull out a cord right now, but I normally would just say that I am an online personal trainer and that I own my own business. Just because normally when it comes to the online personal training world, it blows a lot of people's minds if you just meet them randomly. They're like, you can do that online, or how does that work, or whatever it may be. So it's easiest for me. It's kind of like when someone asks where you live. We live in Jeffersonville, Indiana. It's right next to Louisville. I always say Louisville so that they're not like, where's that? And I'm like, right next to Louisville.
You
Save
you
myself
you
a few
reference
breaths
you
there.
reference the bigger the more known place, right?
Yes, but it comes with a lot of subcategories. That is for sure.
Of course, of course. Well, cool. Yeah, no, I've it's been so cool. So for yeah, most people probably don't know this, but me and Sue went to the same college together. Go
Go
Cats,
cats.
right? There we go. Except for, this year, a little bit
Oh yeah, we
disappointed,
won't
but
talk about that.
we'll keep it moving. But yeah, we went to the same college together. What year did you graduate? Did we graduate around same year?
Yeah, I was in 2017.
Okay, yeah, and I was 2016. Right. I thought we were similar. Yeah. So I've known Sue for quite some time. So I've seen the glow up. I've seen the
Seen
glow
the
up.
many sides of
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, just like physique wise, like physically, and then also with the business and everything and with the relationships. And it's just I'm very happy for you, and I'm very thankful for everything that you do in the fitness industry, and just kind of the message that you put out there. So yeah, I just wanted to commend you on that
Yeah,
first.
I appreciate that. It's always fun when someone mentions you and I'm like, "Oh yeah, we went to college together." Everyone's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we prepped for our shows. We were in the JC doing our cardio." And it was something where I looked up to Matt at that time because he was doing his shows and he got his pro card in the federation he was doing, and I was just brand new to the sport, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, he's doing it. He's doing it all and I
Yeah.
have no clue what I'm doing." So I always looked up to you as far as what you were doing, and just how everything went back at the JC, back in Lexington, and to see everything that has happened since. It's always really cool. Like you said, that glow up and just being able to tell people like, hey, yeah, we went to college together. We've known each other from the very beginning, and just to see each other bloom within our respective fields and within the same field has been phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks. And that was eloquently put. Yeah, no, it is very cool. I always love, I love seeing the good people win, but it's even cooler whenever you know them personally, right?
Yes.
I think so too. Okay, so with, catch me up with. So you're a co-owner, right? Is that correct with Physique Development?
Yes.
So tell people a little bit about Physique Development and just kind of who you guys work with and maybe your mission type thing.
Yeah, I apologize if anyone's watching the video a little shaky. The dogs finally got out from underneath me, so we should be in the clear.
Perfect.
But Physique Development, contrary to popular belief, we do work with all ranges of fitness. So a lot of people will DM us or message us and ask if we work with people other than competitors, and the answer is hell yes, we do. So we want to be able to provide fitness for anyone and everyone, being able to go from someone from an absolute beginner all the way to someone who wants to be elite within the sport. So we think that there is a space for everyone, and we do have multiple coaches on staff to be able to cover all of those spaces as well. So with Physique Development, it's something where it's an online coaching service. There's 3 co-owners. So my husband, Alex, and then Austin Current, which I know has been on this podcast many a times.
All of them.
Probably follow him.
Alex is, I'll get Alex back on soon too. But yeah, no, Austin's been on a few times. And so, yeah, if you guys want to listen to those episodes, shameless plug, go back and check those out.
Always plugging that.
There you go. Continue.
But we are the 3 co-owners. As of right now, we have 4 coaches on staff, and Matt wanted to know a little bit about what was going on with Physique Development. So you guys will get a little bit of a sneak peek on what's going on with Physique Development. We have 2 more coaches coming on. So we actually will have them in town next weekend to be able to get their headshots and make sure we're all set to announce them from there. And then we have 1 more tentative coach to come on after those. So we are growing, we are excited, and just being able to reach more people within fitness. So one of the coaches coming on, she's a dietitian, and she specializes with working moms, which is a huge demographic that she found out was not being catered to. And so she became the person to cater that. And we are very happy to have her on board. And then just some other people in the works that will be able to reach people that we haven't been able to reach before. So very, very excited to have that on board. It's also something where, like I said, we do provide competing and all the services that come with that. So we do posing within it, suit picking, making sure hair, makeup, everything's all good with that, picking the show. And then, of course, making sure your physique matches that. But we want to be a part of the small details as well. Yeah. And then we are coming out with a training app. So the beta group is actually launching next week. So April 12th will be when the beta group is launching. And we will have that beta group run for about a month. Then we'll take a few weeks to make sure that anything that the beta group has run into, all the kinks are ironed out. And then we'll be set to launch the month after that. So we're very, very excited to be able to offer another price point there and to be able to help more people. And what else is happening with Physique Development?
Wait, cookbook, is that just you, or is that Physique
That's
Development?
That's just me.
Okay, got it.
Sure. It will probably be sold on the Physique Development site just because we already have all the plugins there. But I guess to add to the Physique Development, we have clothing coming up. So we are coming out with sweatshirts that say no soft reps, which is something that we've said for a long while. And then sports bras that just say Physique Development on them. And then we are coming out with acid dye clothing as well. So that'll be coming out here in the next month. And then we have, again, you guys are getting the exclusive. We are coming out with a band tee, and we're in the works with our second band tee. So it is going to be paying homage to all of the super cool vintage band tees, and we actually designed our own. That is a Physique Development branded band tee. So we are very, very excited. I'll have to show you a picture after this.
Yes.
And we're coming out with the second one, or working on the design for the second one. So super jazzed about those things for Physique Development. And then, like Matt talked about, I have a cookbook coming out in the next few months. So it's been something, actually, the meeting that I was in before this, which is why I was running a little bit late to this one, was for the cookbook and making sure everything's set. So the cookbook is something that it'll be called Sous Chef, a nice play on words. So if you know anything about the cooking industry, there's the head chef, and then the chef under them is the sous chef, and it is spelled S-O-U-S and pronounced Sue, but my name is S-U-E, so it just made sense to make it sous chef. I love a good pun. And the cookbook, people have asked, like, is it all macro friendly? Is it all like protein recipes? What's that look like? And it's a pretty even keel of all things. It took a lot of meals that I love to eat and make sure that it could be something that fit into macros without trying to like sub out absolutely everything and then not make it taste good, because no one wants that.
Right.
So it was just food that I love to eat and love to cook, and being able to make it a little bit more friendly to someone who is tracking macros. But I also saw a big gap in regards to people tracking macros and not making recipes, because it's a little bit difficult to track them. And I hate that people do not sit down and eat a recipe with their family, or make recipes, or make anything with their family. They'll make something for their family and then sit there with their own macro friendly thing.
Right.
And I hate that. And so being able to provide for that, and it's something where, like, my parents have obviously taste tested a ton of it, and they're like, is this supposed to be like healthy? Like, what is this supposed to taste like? I'm like, it's supposed to taste good. Like that, that's what it's supposed to taste like. And they're like, I wouldn't have been able to tell that this was supposed to be healthy. So just being able to have something where, for example, something like my parents, where they've learned how to track macros in the past. It's not a part of their daily life, but now they have something where they can make recipes that they love to eat, but being able to have them in a place where they'll be able to feel a little bit better, not only internally wise, as far as just ingredients that are good for you and good for your body, but also because, everyone that I talk to seems to always complain about those last few pounds, or just the weight that they can't seem to get off. So being able to make a little bit of a space for those people as well. So it'll be really cool, because there's some recipes that, like, I wouldn't necessarily deem like uber macro friendly. So in some of the versions of some of the recipes, there was one that was more macro friendly, but the taste wasn't where I wanted it to. So we went for the taste more than anything. But there is going to be macros on every recipe. So if you do track macros, you know what they are. There's also going to be already everything tracked in MyFitnessPal. So you'll be able to search sous chef dash the recipe name to be able to find it in MyFitnessPal.
Smart.
So it won't be extra work for you.
Smart.
And then at the bottom of each page, there also will be substitutions that you can make for it to fit your macros better. So again, with recipes, people get very much so, these are the macros for it. That doesn't fit my macros. I can't make that. But for example, being able to be like, hey, if you swap this out for turkey pepperoni, it's going to be a little bit lower fat, or you can swap this out for X, Y, and Z to be able to fit your macros a little bit better. So just being able to teach people that, first, you can cook and you can make food that tastes good. You can eat food and eat it with your family. And again, it can taste good. And then you don't have to be afraid of not knowing how to make something. There's always different switches that you can make within the kitchen. So being able to have that all in play.
Wow. I wish I could give you like a standing ovation right now for all of that, because that was so like fluid and articulated well and pitched well, and it just sounds awesome. So yeah, congrats on all that. I'm
so excited. It has been a labor of love. It's been something.
I bet.
I wanted it to be perfect because I'm a perfectionist.
I understand.
But I see so many people like come out with ebooks where the pictures are taken on their iPhone and they're put together as an ebook and sell them online. And I feel like that doesn't do justice to a lot of the recipes that I've tried in that way, or like maybe the opposite where I think it's going to be good. It's just not.
Yeah.
But being able to provide like something quality, like there's really, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, I do not know everything, but to my knowledge, there's really not a cookbook that is a hardcover cookbook in this category that is going to be able to fill this gap. And so I'm very, very excited to be able to offer a hardcover, to have this on people's coffee tables or in their kitchen, and just be able to I don't know. I'm just so excited because the quality of everything in it, like it's been a labor. I've been driving 3-4 hours to go to the place to take photos, hiring a photographer, getting everything laid out. So this is going to be on like some Joanna Gaines bullshit. And I'm
Yeah.
excited for it.
That's
It's top notch.
that's amazing. You know what I find super interesting about the stuff that you said, even just whenever you mentioned like having the searchability in MyFitnessPal and little things like that. I actually had on my bodybuilding coach, my bodybuilding coach that I won my pro card with. Actually, you know what's interesting is I think it was April 2nd, 2016. So it's the exact day that
Really?
we're recording this,
That's so
except
funny.
5 years ago, right? Which is crazy. But what I talked about with him is how it's so interesting whenever you so like you're a competitor, you've gone to the extreme of the extremes, right? You've gone to the obsessive side of things. But what that can do if you can keep, a healthy perspective with everything is that you unlock a certain type of specific knowledge around these certain things, as far as, yes, you want to make sure that these recipes are macro friendly, but you also want to make them taste good. And it's like, you only someone with your type of knowledge, of somebody who's gone to that obsessive route, can understand the perfect marriage between those two, right? Because like you said, some people can just be like, okay, this is low calorie blank, right? Whatever it is. And they made a bunch of substitutions, they made the lower calorie option. But because you have lived it and you want to, eat like a normal person, like eat like healthy or delicious and healthy meals with your family and things. It's like through that experience and through your knowledge, and then also with working with clients, right? Working with hundreds of clients who have gone through similar problems that they've tried to deal with on their own. All of those kind of come together and blend together to give you this very unique opportunity to present a cookbook that only you can present. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that was a huge point of it. I will give a disclaimer. I made a lot of these recipes when I was in prep and I didn't taste them. So I had to wait till I was out of prep because I was like, I know those diet taste buds are not trustworthy. And I also didn't taste them all. So I had other taste testers to give me feedback. But then, of course, with a product that I'm putting my name on, I wanted to make sure everything was perfect. So there's been a lot of food free flowing in this household. I will tell you that much. And just to make sure that it is perfect, because it's something when it comes to food, and like you were talking about, of reaching that level of you have to be obsessed to be able to be competitive. Like that's just the matter of fact. You have to know all those ins and outs. And it's really cool coming from my background of cooking with my mom and being in the kitchen and making things with all the butter and sugar and everything.
Preach.
And then getting into fitness and like coming from a place, I mean, I have a fast food ebook that I sell as well. And some trainers might be like, oh, I don't want people eating fast food. But it's like, let's look at what's realistic for people. That's what I'm always trying to go for. Competing, not realistic. What can we do that's realistic to reach everyone? My parents were a huge inspiration for making the fast food ebook because I taught them macros. We went through it all. And they're like, this is great. I feel great. It's just not realistic. And I was like, you're right. It's not. Like, it's easy for me as a fitness coach, as a competitor, as someone who's in the fitness world to be like, this is easy because to my lifestyle, it fits. It makes sense. It's how my life is lived. It's what my life circles around. But to my parents who are real estate agents who will get a call that someone needs to see a house and their dinner plans are called off, or they have to change something around, or they couldn't go to the grocery store, or a meeting ran long and they have to go and grab fast food. Like, what's realistic about being like, no, go home and make this meal? That's not realistic whatsoever. So being able to make resources of like, hey, I get it when you're on the go, when you're traveling and you need to get fast food, like grab these options. They're going to be a little bit better for you. Everything's fine in moderation. I love fast food. And that's another thing that like a lot of people find very confusing about me, but I love fast food. I love that aspect of food and just being able to see, okay, how does that reach other people? People don't eat healthy because first, they don't know how to cook, but second, they don't know what is making it healthy. Like we talked about, of making it super macro friendly or low calorie. It's when you get into that trap of being like, oh, if it's low calorie, then it's healthy, or these certain foods are healthy for me. But it's really being able to be like, okay, how do we make things that you're able to eat and enjoy and feel good about eating, and internally feel good as well. So it's also something that I took a big part of the cookbook to make sure it made sense for someone going to the grocery store and buying groceries. So there's multiple recipes that use the same ingredients, because I know what it's like to go and buy some absurd ingredient and never use it again. Now,
Yeah.
I will say that there is one ingredient that you have to buy for a recipe that is, I found it at Kroger. So it wasn't like you had to go to a specialty grocery store. And Matt's about to understand me. I remade the local taco, Korean barbecue taco.
Oh, really? No
So
way.
you do have to get a special Korean paste for that, but it's worth it. I'll tell you on that. And
Oh
there's
my
2
gosh.
recipes that use it, so it doesn't go to waste, and you'll just want to eat it by the spoonful. But for example, like buffalo chicken, huge fan. There's a buffalo chicken dip. And then after you've used the dip, if you refrigerate it, have it overnight, there's a buffalo tater tot recipe that uses that dip after it's been in the fridge. So any leftovers you have. There's also buffalo chicken enchiladas. So again, you can use that same stuffing for that meal and not feel like you bought all of this stuff or have all this extra and don't want to eat that much buffalo chicken dip. I mean, you may. I would eat that much buffalo chicken dip.
No judgment.
In case you don't want to, you have some options. There's also a buffalo chicken soup in there. And then there's also, so there's a dip, a soup, and enchiladas, and then the buffalo cup. So you can reuse the same ingredients, or if you make one of them one day, you can make the next one with the leftovers the next day. So I also wanted to be considerate as far as people shopping, what it looks like for people's grocery carts, and then what it looks like for those, working moms, or if you are just running around and you have a crazy job. I know it's not realistic to pop open a cookbook and spend hours on a meal. And so I didn't want to make it that way. So not all of these are like these immaculate plated meals. They're realistic meals for you to make and enjoy and be able to eat foods that you like and not feel like you have to go out to eat every time that you want to.
Yeah, no, I love that. See, that's the type of like specific knowledge of somebody who's actually gone through the experience themselves, or at least helped other people go through it as well. Because oh, they're gonna make this, maybe they'll have leftovers, they can save it and then use it for this the next day, right? Yeah, I think that's just so it's so key, and I think that, like you said, the realistic part of it, it's just like, one, just getting people to cook in general is gonna it's gonna solve so many problems, at least just for the everyday individual, right? Just getting them something that they can cook fairly easily, and then once they have several ingredients, maybe they can make other meals around those same ingredients. It's like that's going to take care of so many different decisions and things like that are going to prevent them from even cooking in the first place. And so, yeah, I think that's wonderful. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it.
Oh, that was
that was amazing.
Well, yeah, so I do have a road board here. So I do have some sound effects, but Tucker, my puppy dog, I guess I can't call him that. He's 110 pounds. But he's 1 year old, so he's still a puppy. He just come over and set his head on the Rode podcaster. So we got some sound effects in here if we want to use them.
Amazing. I was like, that was a sound effect real quick. We should just, we should start doing that. We should have a little sound.
I literally have no clue what any of these buttons do, because Alex normally sits next to this when we're doing our podcast. Then I'm like, we should use those. And he was like, no, like, let's keep it whatever. And I'm like, no, like, we should really use
Will you please push one more? Push just a random one.
And you can set them to whatever. Like, we obviously haven't set them to anything, but I think there's like a clapping one.
Oh, what are we doing? What are we doing? We just
having a grand old time. That's a long one. Jeez.
Oh, that sounds legit though.
Is that going to stop?
It's all good. Okay. It's all good. That was perfect.
Okay. I was like, that was pretty long.
It's a really funny joke. It sounded real. That's amazing. I love random stuff like that during podcasts. One time during a podcast, because I have these two clearly I look like I'm glowing right now, but it's just because I have these big windows in front of me. And during one of my podcasts, and there's also big glass buildings in front of me, New York City, and they're the sun was shining on one of the buildings. And while I was in the middle of a podcast, somebody was talking. I literally had to stop them because the glare, I had to like squint my eyes to see them. I had to stop the podcast in the middle. I didn't edit it. I had to like climb under my table to close the blinds. It's just like,
I love it.
I love random stuff like that on the podcast. It's great. Have you guys, because you guys have a podcast with Physique Development. Have you guys been enjoying that?
Yes, we have been. I actually just recorded a solo episode earlier today for that. It's been fun. We do want to get more consistent with it. We started off with every other week and we're trying to get to every week right now. But it has just been pretty difficult with everything we have going on in life. So I also not only have my own roster of clients, but then I onboard any physique development coaches and make sure that they're good to go. I do a lot of the admin stuff within physique development. And then I'm also working on the cookbook. I also have a part-time job where I'm working for another company. And then just a few other irons in the fire and doing stuff around the house. So I'm like, what way is up? How can we get this ironed out? So we're always trying to like schedule multiple in a week, or I'm like, the further out we can schedule it, the better. So then I can schedule everything else around that.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. I love podcasts. I love being on podcasts and obviously speaking. And for those who don't know, my actual degree is in broadcast journalism. So I have a lot of experience in front of the camera and speaking, and it's something I really enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. You guys should check that out. But yeah, no, the consistency, like you realize, oh, I've got homework like every week almost. That's what it becomes. And you're like, shit, the new week pops up very quickly.
Yeah. Well, there's some you can do off the cuff. And then there's some where I'm like, I got to be prepared for this. I got to make sure I'm quoting this correctly or speaking towards the right, like reference range. I would never want to just be like, yeah, it's something like that, because that would completely destroy my credibility. If that was like continuous, obviously, if someone asked me something, I'm like, I'd have to get back to you on that. But it's fun. It's super fun. And I really enjoy it. And just being able to have another platform to give information, because we have our social media, we have our YouTube channel, we have the podcast, and we have a few other avenues, but being able to have that podcast has been great.
Mm-hmm. How have you dealt with all of these new responsibilities and things over time? Like if you told Sue, like 2 or 3 years ago that you're going to be doing this and this and this and this and this, like what do you think has helped you the most with maybe just not feeling as overwhelmed, or is it like planning, or what do you think has allowed you to like your tagline, like you can do hard things? How have you been able to, what would you mostly attribute to being able to do harder and harder things over time?
Honest answer, fully, it would be THC. I know that probably is not the answer that you were expecting. And probably some of these listeners did not know that I participated in that. But it's something with being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, being responsible for so many people. You have to take care of yourself. And that's something that I realized very quickly was very easy not to do. And it's funny because I've had so many conversations with Alex about this, where right after or during his prep in 2018 and right after that show, he was not caring about his health as much. And in my head at that time, with how busy I was and what things looked like, I thought, and I feel awful about it now, I'm like, he's just not prioritizing his time right. And I was sitting on this stool of just being like, if he cared, like he would have prioritized this time differently. And I've apologized since. And he was like, well, you never said that out loud, so you didn't technically need to apologize. I was like, it's been weighing on me. I feel awful about it that I thought that. It is a whirlwind constantly. When people find out the different projects that I'm involved in, they're like, how do you keep your head on straight? How do you do all of that? And it comes from having a team. I 100% could not do this alone. I know Alex time and time again says that I'm the glue that holds everything together, but I also have other people holding me together to make sure I can hold everything together. So a big part of it is first having a team, being able to be better at delegating and respecting your own time. That is huge. I had to start respecting my own time instead of just giving it away freely. Also being able to have different systems in place for communication. I mean, with a team, you have to be able to communicate. And if it's just willy-nilly, then everyone's going to feel bad. It's just not going to run well. So having different systems, paying for different systems, organizing different systems to make sure that's in the absolute best spot, then that's what needs to be done. I am a huge to-do list person and I always have to write it out. And everyone makes fun of me because they're like, you can like do that on technology, but I am, and I learned this through college too. I retain information so much better if I write it out. And I just like, I have that like hit of dopamine every time I cross it off my list. Sometimes if something's like not on my list, I'll like write it down and then cross it off. And I'm like, good dopamine hit just for that second. I needed that.
I love it.
So those are like the technical side of things, but where the THC comes in is I'm work all the time. I don't have a work-life balance. I'm awful about it. I know that. I wake up at 5 a.m. I go straight to work. I'm work. I'm cook because I meal prep for Alex and I, make sure everything's cooked, cook each of our meals, make sure that I have time to train, make sure I have time for any meetings I have, my calls, my clients come, of course, first, making sure all of that's panned out, dedicating the time to my other job, all of that. At the end of the day, it's extremely hard for me to turn my brain off. It's go, like all of Alex and I's conversations, even if we try to have and be like, this is a no work conversation, something work always comes up. It's all about work all of the time. And the only way where I've been able to kind of take time and turn off my brain, because I'm a worrier. That's just the part of me. I always want to make sure everything is perfect. I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. I overthink and overanalyze everything, and that's helped me in some ways and hurt me in many ways as well. But it's been something where it allows me to have a cutoff time. It allows me to stop thinking about work. It allows me to have that time to relax and to be able to actually have a good night's sleep instead of just working until 1 a.m., which I was getting into a very bad habit. So if you could do the math there, working until 1 a.m., waking up at 5 a.m. to continue working, my quality of life and my health was pretty poor. And so being able to kind of reanalyze that, see, okay, what am I able to do in a day? What does that look like? And how can I show up for myself? And I know people are polarizing thoughts on THC, and I completely understand that. And I've had them myself before, and I'm always willing to have a conversation about it. But it is something just for me. I mean, being able to have a medical card, being able to utilize that and have that for me and have that space for myself has been so helpful for me to be able to wake up each day and get after it again. So it's been weird because it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And it's something that I've strayed away from talking about just because I don't want to polarize people.
Sure.
But it is something where, I mean, if we're going to talk about what's helped, I don't want to sit here and just be like, oh, lists, that's what helped. Because they do help. They for sure help. But I would be leaving out a big part of the puzzle on how I do it all.
Well, I think the process of normalizing what you just said is actually talking about it and hearing people like you talk about it, right? And I think you using it responsibly, I think, is also huge. Because if you would have said, hey, I have a glass of wine every night at the end of the night, it's like people wouldn't bat an eye. It's like they wouldn't say anything. And so it's so funny you say that though, because I do that on the weekends with like bourbon or whiskey. So like tonight, it's like I've written about this a few times. I actually put it up. I put a post of just me pouring bourbon into a glass like last week or something. And because I get messages sometimes, they're like, you're a health professional. Why do you always show yourself drinking? And I was like, I show it to you because I want to show you that I can have my vices under control, right? Like I'm hyper aware of how much I drink, and it's not as much as people may think. But what I want to show them is an example of having balance. And what I'm getting at here is I'll have some bourbon at the end of tonight. I typically do it Friday and Saturday nights as my way of winding down at the end of the week. And it's like that Friday night and Saturday night bourbon wouldn't taste as good if I, drank to excess every single night, right? And for me personally, that's my way of shutting down for the week. But like you said, I think it doesn't matter what it is, if it was alcohol, if it was THC, if it was, a candy bar, whatever it is, I think having some type of hard stop for business owners, especially, because it's just, it's never ending, right? So having some type of hard stop, and I think that we can probably both agree on this, is watching something like stand-up comedy at the end of the night, I think can be huge. And so I've talked about this before. I start and end my day almost every single day with some type of stand-up comedy. And that's my, like, in the morning I wake up and I'd want to be proactive on my well-being, not necessarily always, productivity, although that comes after that, because I do well-being first. So I get like happy. And then after that, then I can get into the productive mode. And then at nighttime, for myself to kind of shut off, I know I don't watch comedy until I know, okay, no more work is going to happen. So that's my hard stop. So I think it's interesting that you say that, because I think it's so important to have those little treats or boundaries or whatever you want to call it to just help you shift experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, as long as you're using responsibly and being smart about it, then I really don't think that there is that side of saying like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Because like you said, if I were to say like, oh, I have a glass of wine at the end of each night, this, like, nothing more would have come from that.
Right.
But being able to be like, hey, like, there's more coming out on this. There's more that we're learning about this. There's a reason that it's being legalized. Yes, part of that, we could talk about conspiracies and what that does for the government.
NYC, it happened yesterday, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, but it got legalized yesterday.
Yes, I knew it was happening this week, but I wasn't sure the exact day.
Yeah.
But I think that especially for business owners, you have to find that thing that you can use to turn off, because it is so easy to work yourself into the ground. It's so easy to not prioritize your own health. It was something that, like I said, that conversation with Alex where I had to just like apologize because I felt like so bad for how I was viewing him. And that might be something for some of the people listening or watching this, of maybe you're watching someone and you think you know what's going on in their life, but you really don't know what all they're doing. Like,
not even close.
No one knows that I have a second job. I'm not front facing. I have an NDA for them, but I work 20 hours a week for them. And it's a full other company that I am a very a big position as far as their company. People don't know that about me. They don't know what's going on in my day-to-day life. They don't know the other projects that are happening. And so it's very easy to look at someone and have that immediate judgment of, oh, they're just not doing this, or they don't care about this. And I think that's been a big part of opening up my eyes, of saying like, hey, for me, it might be realistic to not eat fast food. For other people, it's not. For me, it might be realistic to train, but for other people, it might not be. So being able to see that from other perspectives, to go through different things, has been so instrumental for me to grow as a human being, to see what other people are doing, to see what it feels like to go through these different experiences and get a grasp on it, and to be able to be a little bit more empathetic. I'm already a very empathetic person, but to learn more, to become even more empathetic and to understand what that looks like. I just feel like it's allowed me to have more compassion, as well as to be more clear within what I need for my life and where my boundaries are, what I expect from people, to be able to know different people in different walks of life, as well as experience that myself. It's just been so helpful. And I feel like it's helped me as a business owner. It's helped me as far as managing the team and making sure that I'm able to show up for them from a different perspective that they might have not had before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And yeah, thanks again for sharing all of that, because I do think it's important. I think it's also, it's just like, I think it's because you can hear everything that you're doing, and then you said, working long hours and the THC or whatever. It's like, I think it's also important, like, what's important to you, like what's your priority, and priorities from person to person is going to differ. And I think that's where the empathy can be huge, or sympathy, right? Either one. But it's just like, yeah, what do you prioritize? And then how do you kind of organize your life around that? And then sure, you may have to talk about it to other people and just kind of explain your thinking or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's just like, you do whatever, like, do what you want to do. You prioritize what you prioritize, and there's not necessarily any right or wrong. And I feel like that can take some time and some refinement, but if you keep chipping away, and I think even you would probably agree that it evolves over time, right? And so it's like, what you're prioritizing prioritizing right now, like if you're prioritizing lots of work, like maybe you're doing that so you don't have to prioritize work as much as possible in the future, right? So what do you think? Because one thing I did want to talk about is how at this age, work and ambition and there's a lot of sometimes like uncertainty about the future, and we're just I feel like the security can be addicting, right? Like the thought of security and stability and things at our age, it's so enticing. And I think that we want to do everything possible to have that security in terms of finances, in terms of like status, or just like our peers and things like that. I think, in our actual work and careers that we do. So it's like, yeah, maybe do you want to speak to that a little bit about how you've maybe, manage that as far as your own expectations or prioritization, and just along those lines.
Yeah. Well, I'll start off by saying that growing up, I didn't have a dream of what my job was going to be. I didn't have this major expectation. I actually kind of assumed I would just have a desk job and live in my desk job and just make ends meet and never be really passionate. And it's weird saying that because I had two parents who went after exactly what they wanted and made it happen and loved their job. But for some reason, I put myself in this box of like, I'm just going to be like everyone else and not really love my job. And so then when I went to college and I was in broadcast journalism, I loved it. I truly did. I did it all through high school, freshman to senior year. And then I did it all through college and I loved it. I just didn't love the news and being that plugged into everything.
Yeah.
I already was having massive mental health issues. It was taking an even bigger toll on my mental health. And I didn't see myself doing that. I was like, this is going to be a thing where I hate my job. And I was like, I'm not setting myself up well for my future. So I actually I was so close to finishing. I didn't want to change my major. I had just gotten into fitness and I was like, let me just do this to make ends meet for right now. And so I started coaching. And again, I didn't have some big plan. I didn't plan on owning a business with multiple employees and doing all of these things. None of that was something I was like, I see this. And it's funny because Alex always did. And Alex and I work really well together because I am the day-to-day operations and he is the dreamer and he sees what's capable and what's possible. And I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other because I can't really bother myself with much else.
Yeah.
But it's something that I started coaching and I was just like, oh, I love coaching. I love helping people. How can I help more people? And then it turned into, okay, I love helping more people. I love where this is going. How can I get more education? And then it went towards, oh, now that I have more education, I can help even more people. How do I show up there? Okay, well, I can't help everyone. Can I hire people to help more people? And then it came to hiring people. And I realized how rewarding it was to be able to provide income for someone that they had never had before. It is crazy to look and to have conversations with the physique development coaches of someone who was in a dead-end job and hated it, got fired during COVID. And we said, don't get another job. She was scared shitless, didn't know what she was going to do. And we said, don't get another job. We have it. And now being able to see her flourish and be able to remodel different things in her house and be able to plan for different things and be excited about her future is the most rewarding thing ever. To have someone who probably couldn't have supported a baby financially to become pregnant and be able to do everything that they need to provide for that child and to be in a place where they are buying another home and being able to provide for their family is huge. To see someone and be able to provide salary, to offer salary in the next few months for someone so that they can quit their job and they can come on full time. For someone else who's just bought a home that they never thought that they would be able to buy. Like all of that has become so rewarding and so beneficial. And it all came from just starting and deciding to do something that I knew was going to bring me joy. And I know that you might be listening to this and say, Sue, it's not that easy. Just do something that sparks joy and you're going to make a huge job out of it. I completely agree. I hear you. I'm feeling you talk to me right now.
Yeah.
But a big part of it started by just believing that I could take a step and go towards that direction. And when it comes to how much I work right now, again, I would have never assumed I would have been this type of worker. I was always a hard worker, but because I was never passionate about what I was doing, I never poured myself into something time and time again. And so to finally find that thing and know how scary it was that I was going to fall on my face if I didn't give my all just pushed me to give so much. And knowing that other people rely on me, that I am providing for other people's families, and that it stops with me shows me that I need to show up and I need to be there and I need to continue to innovate things that I have no freaking clue what I'm doing. There's so many things. Do you think I knew how to make a cookbook? I had to research everything. I had to hire people. I had to reach out. I had to call. I have all of this set of skills for all these different things that I'm doing that I had no clue were in my future. So it's something that the reason that I'm working so hard to answer your original question right now is because Alex and I's dream is to be in a spot not only that we could provide income for hundreds of people instead of tens of 20s of people, but also we want to be so present in our kids' life that it's stupid, that they were at every event, every sporting event, any play, anything, we were there. Because I am so unbelievably thankful for how present my parents were and how present his parents were. And I just know that not only are we helping people as far as learning about their health and being able to have that control that and feel empowered by what they're doing that they've never had before, as far as coaching clients, being able to also do that for the coaches on staff, and then be able to stand there and provide for our kids and our kids' kids. I couldn't think of anything else I'd rather work for. So it's not like, obviously financial security is something that I've always wanted and always dreamed for, but more than anything, being able to see what that looks like in your day-to-day life. It's hard not to work more, even though I might be burnout, even though I might be tired, even though I shouldn't take on another project, because I just know each leap that I've taken before and each time I've worked harder in the past has brought something up. And yes, as I talked about, it's also very important to have time for yourself and to take care of yourself. But knowing that, like, thinking small and all of that, like, it's for the birds. And I've done it and I've lived a very bad life doing that. And so working, and if someone ever like makes a comment about how much I work or anything like that, I know I have sympathy and empathy for the fact that they're not in a place that they were able to see what an impact they could make and what they were capable of. And not to say anyone who doesn't work as much as I do doesn't care about what they're doing. I want to make that very clear. I know that there's different types of jobs, different types of people needed in this world. And I very much so respect and love that. I love that there needs to be so many different types of personalities to make something run smoothly. I love that. But as far as what my job needs to be, my job is the mover and maker. And so I need to do that well so that other people can have their dream jobs to be able to be successful in that. But I also need to realize that if someone doesn't understand how much I work, I also might need to stop and explain it to them or make some more space for them for me to continue to work as much as I do to make the vision happen. Because I think that a lot of people try to talk about balance where, to be honest, if you're starting a business, there's not a lot of balance.
Right.
There's a
Right.
lot of grinding. And I don't like to post like me waking up at 5 a.m. and saying no days off. I worked another 16-hour day. Like, if you follow me, I don't post that kind of stuff at all.
Right.
That is not my personality whatsoever to talk like that. But it is something, as far as there, I will always be honest. If someone asks me, I don't have a lot of free time. I don't have a lot of space for other things that some others might, but I do understand what that reasoning is for and what that space means for me in the future for what I'm building. So I don't know if I fully answered your question. I know I
No,
talked a lot,
that was
but those are the thoughts swirling around in my head.
that's perfect. It deserves another standing ovation. Because I 100% agree. So would you say that the ultimate goal, kind of at the end of the day? So I think of being present with your children and things like that. So at the end of the day, more freedom and flexibility long term is going to make more sense. And since you don't have kids at this moment, besides the furry friends, of course, you can afford to work as much as you want. Like you said, because that's what's so important to you, you're going you're going to do that. Of course, not to the point of burnout like you've experienced, but you've gone to that, and then you've pulled yourself back, and now you've maybe found that happy medium for you. And it's just like you're not willing to go do other things that might not be as high up on your values list. And I think that's great.
Yeah. The end goal. I mean, if I could employ a bajillion people, I would love that. Alex says that if we were ever to get in trouble financially, the reason would be me giving away too much money, which I think is a good problem to have. I love being able to like pay for people's lunches or just being able to treat them to something. I mean, a huge thing that we do with the physique development coaches is make them feel valued AF. Like, I want you to know that I see value in you and that I care about you and that I'm rooting for you. It's not just so that I can get a percentage and have you on my roster. It's you're getting everything branded PD. You're getting flights paid for. You're getting hotels paid for because I value you and I want you to know how much you mean to this team. And I just want to, if there's anything that I can do in this life to perpetuate the type of life or the type of way I think people should be treated, like why wouldn't I do that? Like, if a business can run where employees feel extremely valued and cared for and listened to, and that becomes the norm, and I was a part of that, frick yeah. Like, what else could I want? And being able to continue to provide for people and provide for other families, and getting myself to a spot where I've provided for my family and to a place that I can be there for my family and the place that I want to, like, I can't think of a better thing to work for or a better thing to wish for, to have in motion. And what I will say about balance is an ever moving target. Balance at this point in my life has been completely different than it was a month ago, will be completely different than it is in a month. So do not hold this view of balance and think it looks like someone else's balance, or it should look like your balance was a little bit ago, because it definitely will not. And that is okay, as long as you are shifting with that and aware of what that shift looks like.
Beautiful. Fuck yeah, Sue. I love it. I love it. Would you say, so I know we've still got a little bit. I wanted to touch real quick because I know I think, and you can divulge as much as you want, but you guys are fairly close with Katie and Hayden Schneider, right?
Yeah.
And I think seeing what they do. So for people who don't know, they own Alani Nutrition. They own quite a few companies actually, and I think that they are goals, right? Like, lack of a better term, like as far as maybe not like, maybe everybody doesn't want to do exactly what they're doing, but as far as working on things that they care about, being very present in their children's lives, like of course they are. I think those types of relationships, how helpful has that been, and maybe what kind of role have they helped you and Alex in your own kind of vision for the future?
Well, first, I'm always going to give credit for anyone who's ever done anything for me. I like do it to probably too much, where I'm like, someone told me that once, and I want you to know that wasn't coming from me. It was coming from someone else. But they have been, like, outside of the business side of things, they have just been such great friends and such a great role model in regards to what it looks like to have friends that support you. And I think that that's something that I missed out on for a very long time, is having friends that supported me under the guise of if it still benefited them, or if it still fit into their picture of how they wanted me to be a friend, or whatever that may look like. And recently or I should say in the past few years, I've cultivated friendships that are so much more than that. People that are, even if they're in the exact same business field as you, are excited for what your business is doing. Even if you're coming out with a similar product, are going to give you a piece of advice on what you should do. So it's funny because it's something that I don't talk with Katie a lot about business. Alex will talk with Hayden more about that, but it's something of just being able to see what they've done and what's been capable of for them, and knowing that like the world is our oyster. Like we can do what we want to do. And it's been cool more than anything outside of business conversations to have conversations about what it's like to have our job. Because a lot of people don't understand what our job looks like, or don't understand what our duties are, or don't understand the pressures, or don't whatever. And you really don't know till you know. That's just a matter of fact. And so being able to have someone to be like, oh my gosh, like this is hard. And then be like, yeah, it is hard. Like it is. You're right. And being able to have those conversations, or just like I was talking to Mackenzie the other day. She's one of our coaches on staff, and then her and her boyfriend are some of Alex and I's closest friends. And we went and we flew down to Florida, and we spent a week with Katie and Hayden. It was all 6 of us, and it was one of the best trips I've been on. Not because we did a lot or was this magical trip, but because we all went there. We all worked during the day, took care of what we needed to take care of. Everyone cooked when they needed to cook. It wasn't like, what are we doing for breakfast? It was like everyone just kind of ate when they wanted to eat. If someone wanted to eat together, that was fine. If someone wanted to go for a walk, they would ask some others. But it was something of just realizing, like I talked about, that friendship of just someone who understood what was going on in your life and was going to be there at the end of the day. So we would do everything we needed to do throughout the day. And then we would cut off at night and just spend quality time together. And it was like this low pressure, but like encouraging and motivating environment, because we were at Katie and Hayden's house. And like you said, they own a lot of companies. They're very successful. It was just so magical to be in this house that they worked their ever loving asses off for. And to be surrounded by so many hardworking people that weren't going to sit there and complain that you were hardworking. And then also like compliment you for being hardworking. Because that's something that you might fall into and notice of people being like, you work too much. And then the next second be like, you're so hardworking. And it's like, but that was too much for you a second ago. So it's just been so cool to have that. And then we've had obviously conversations about business and been able to talk about what our plan is and what things look like. So it's been awesome having that. But I would say mainly it's a friendship before it's anything business related. Which has been so cool, because in conversations I've had with them, just talking about like how it's hard being as well known as they are when people know so much about their lives, that it's always that someone's coming in with a notion of like who they are, or knowing like excess facts about their life. And so it's been just fun to just be there as a friend and to learn about their life and to be a part of their life more than anything. So it's been super cool in that aspect. And then it's been really cool just to have someone as a mentor, for lack of a better word, if I do have something, or if I just want to talk about growing pains. I know I texted Katie not too long ago, just saying like, hey, I admire the heck out of you. Like a lot of people would maybe view your life from social media and say like, oh, she's just playing at home with the kids all day. But seeing her in motion, she's doing a million things each and every day.
Of course.
Like, you don't even want to know what her to-do list look like. And to know like that Alex and I are in the thick of it, and that they kind of got past the thick of it. I was just like, I hope you know like how much I admire how much you're showing up, and like how much you fought through to get to where you are, because I'm in the thick of it and it's hard and you're doing it. And it's just been cool to have someone to relate to, have someone to talk to, and then just have another friendship that understands. Like it's awesome.
Oh, that's so cool. And that makes me so happy to hear, because you love, like I can just tell, like I've met them as well, but in like a meet and greet, not like on a personal level, but you can just tell they're good people, right? And it's always good to hear reinforcement from other people on the inside and things as well. But yeah, I think what you're talking about, you see her like, oh, does she just play with the kids all day? Do they just hang out by the pool or play with the dogs or whatever? It's like, but the thing is, The other professionals know. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to post on your Instagram that you're awake at 5 a.m. to know, for me to know that you're working hard, right? It's like most of the people that post that and stuff, it's like they're trying to put on a front. They're trying to
If you got
compensate.
time to post about it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
There are
right.
times that I'm like, oh my
Right.
gosh, I'm so busy. And I'm like, I at least have enough time to post about this. That was a
Right.
joke.
Yeah, no, but and the thing, same thing with the relationships. It's like, I feel like how you talked about your relationship with them is not transactional, right? It's a friendship first, and you don't have any of expectations from them. And I just, or whenever you're working side by side with them, it's fun because you're both just, you can talk about work and you can work together, and there's no expectations of if you want to eat now or eat later. It's just like I hung out with, Carter Good and Kaylin Piles, and they're similar as far as like
Such a
grind,
great
grind, grind.
people.
And then, yeah, they're amazing as well. But that's what we like. It was funny because I went to visit them and I was totally okay with work. Like it was just a normal work day for the most part. And then we would all like go and get dinner, or maybe we'll go to the
Yeah.
gym and then we go get dinner and stuff. And then we wind out at nighttime. But like that's what I expected. Like I expected to go there and work and things.
That's not the norm. I've definitely found that out.
Well, also,
but it's so nice when it is.
yeah, of course. And the talking to people and expecting things from them. And Austin Poland, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's more of like a celebrity trainer actually, and he trains Adam Levine. He lives at Adam Levine's house, and he talks
That's
about
awesome.
how the relationship with him is like the reason why he has such a good relationship with him is just because they're just friends. Like they treat each other just as peers and things. And he doesn't expect things, or he doesn't be like, hey, my buddy wants a real quick picture for his, whatever, or things like that. It's like expecting things from these people. I think you just, at the end of the day, the point that I'm trying to make at, and I think that what you guys do so well, and you specifically as well, is just you're kind, right? You're a good person. And I think that over everything, out of all the other business savvy and everything else, it's like being kind and being nice to people is the highest compounding interest you can make over time, right? Integrity and being kind to others. And so yeah, I just wanted to finish that little rant.
The best marketing strategy, if you want, your all-time tip is to care about your clients, care about the work you're doing, care about the results, care about what's going on in their life, care about the people that you're building relationships with. The second that it becomes transactional, it becomes very transparent as well that it is transactional. And there's some times where I have transactional relationships and we are both very aware it's a transactional relationship and we do not try to feign past that.
Yeah.
But any relationship of mine that is not purely transactional, I try to be as present as possible, as much of a human as possible, because there are times where people will be like, you have an in with Katie and Hayden. Can you talk to them about X, Y, and Z? And
Exactly.
It's like, no.
Exactly.
Because I don't have an in. They're my friend. Like that's it. And it wasn't some whole plan to get them our friends and to do this whole thing. It was, I talked to them like they were humans. I inquired about different things in their life, and we naturally became friends. Anyone that I'm friends with a bigger following, it's funny because people be like, how'd you become friends with them? And I was like, I was a normal person.
Yeah.
And I'm also pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know you might not reflect it because my followers are not the same, but
Sure.
you just got to care. You got to care about other people. And that's, again, how we run our business. I care about our coaches. It is not just a price tag that's coming with them. I care about what's going on in their life. I care about if they're having relationship problems. I care about if they're going to reach their goals or not. It doesn't come down to just how does this benefit me? And if you look at life in that way, it's a very sad way to live your life of how this benefits you. But I can promise, and I can be a living testament of if you care and if you work hard, a lot will flourish from that naturally. And it has been like one of the most rewarding things of just realizing that it wasn't some skeevy thing or something I had to do. I just had to show up. And it's been so cool just bearing the fruit of those looms and being able to be excited about it. Cause it's like, oh, this is my life now. This is cool
Yeah.
that this is everything that's happened.
Yeah. And you've earned it. You've absolutely earned
Thank
it.
you. I
Fuck yeah.
appreciate
Fuck
that.
yeah, Sue. That's what I want to name this podcast episode. Just fuck yeah, Sue. That's what that's how I feel. Well, cool. I do want to be respectful of your time. I know that we could chat about this stuff for a while. But yeah, thank you for all of that. And thank you for sharing all of that. Cause I think that there'll be a lot of resonance with a lot of the things that you said from the listeners today. So yeah, thanks for coming on for sure.
Of course. And before we cut off, we will just say, what are your top 3 stand-up comedians you've listened to recently?
So one that I'd heard before, but Austin Current actually pointed me back onto him, and that's Nate Bargatze.
Yes, I love Nate Bargatze.
I've been a huge fan of his lately. I love his dry sense of humor. It's been wonderful. But then other than him, Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer.
Okay, good. I was like, you gotta say Tom Segura. He is so hilarious.
Are you watching the live tonight or no?
Well, I'll be watching it alone because Alex isn't here, which will just not be as fun. But I love Tom Segura, and it's funny because Bert, I actually didn't like him to begin with, and
that's
then one
understandable.
night we couldn't I think this sometimes people the certain stand-up just doesn't mesh.
For sure.
There's times for example, we watched this guy and I know he's a funny guy, but his stand-up was all targeted towards his past stand-ups and all the work he has done and his whole life story. And I didn't know his life story. So then it wasn't funny. I was I can appreciate how this would have been funny if I knew, but it's not funny because I don't. But something within one of the ones I'd watched of Bert, it was just a bad taste in my mouth, or his jokes just didn't hit. I was that's really not funny. So I'd kind of written him off for a while. And then one night we're let's try one of his stand-ups, blah, blah. And the next morning we woke up and I was he was actually pretty funny. And then we watched another one and I was okay, I actually really like him. But you just got to get past the
listen. the frat boy of it all, because it's kind of he's kind of like a frat guy basically. He's from Florida, he takes his shirt off. He's just very obnoxious, loud and outgoing. I think that the biggest thing is his if you listen to his podcast and things so Two Bears One Cave is my all-time favorite, and it's because
did you watch his Netflix special about the cabin?
Yes, for sure. Of course I did. Yes, it's insane.
So weird.
It's insane. It's so weird. But that's Bert. He's so over the top. And so that's what all that stuff is going to be. But it's just his candor. It's just his authenticity and his openness. It's very attractive to me. I just like that whenever somebody is all in on being themselves and he displays his vulnerabilities and accepts them. And he can be absolutely hilarious. But Tom is just he's just
hilarious.
that assassin. He's witty. He's clever.
The way he delivers lines.
Exactly.
I'm always when he's setting up a joke, I always try to guess the end of the joke. And I'm that would have been really funny if he said this. And then he says something. I'm oh, that was so much funnier. The way you just presented that, I tried to think that I was really funny, but you just, you're up there.
He'll get you.
Which if anyone listening has any suggestions for comedians, I will always take them, especially female comedians, because just diversity within my comedians. I always want to get that. So we watched through Tiffany Haddish had a special where she highlighted a lot of comedians that she felt didn't get the hype that they deserved. So it was really cool just to listen to people from different walks of life. And Tiffany Haddish is just really funny in general. Her stand-up, again, was one that the one that we watched didn't hit because it was so do you know who Tiffany Haddish is?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. The one that we watched was kind of her, I made it stand up. And so it was a lot of you guys didn't think I could do it. I could make it. And I was I know you're a lot funnier than this, but you're making this a whole thing. But I do really like her and I love her in movies. I think she's amazing in movies. But some other female comedians, Whitney Cummings, and then Nikki Glaser or Glazer.
Nikki Glaser. Yeah.
they're both pretty vulgar, and
Yeah.
I would say Nikki much more than
For sure. Very
than
much.
Whitney. Nikki is very vulgar, and she has no problem being vulgar. But if
That's
you
her
don't
thing.
mind that,
That's her brand. That's her thing. Yeah, for sure.
I do find her very funny, but she is vulgar and would not watch with parents.
Sure. Yes. Don't do that. Awkward moments for sure. That's amazing. Yeah, no, we're gonna sign off here. We can discuss this things off air real quick. But just because I know we've touched on quite a few things, give people one, where they can find you, and then two, give me the dates for sure about the cookbook again and the app when they're dropping.
The beta group for the app is April 12th, and then June will be when it launches.
I do it too.
And then for the cookbook, the tentative launch date is in July, but stay up to date on Instagram because I'm finalizing things with the publisher, or the publishing company. It's self-published through a publishing company. And then all the layouts was the meeting I was at before this to make sure everything inside was all good to go. And then where you can find me is at Sue Gaines, SUEGAINZ, on Instagram. And from that, you could find me anywhere else. So you could find our YouTube channel, you could find our podcast, you could find literally anything else you needed. Perfect. Sue, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate everything that you do. I really do. This was a wonderful convo, and I really do wish you nothing but success. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you asking me to be on and just having a conversation. Of course. We'll do it again soon. Okay. All right.